August 13, 1972. A severe storm is rolling into Rawalpindi, Pakistan. Beneath the heavy rain sits a maximum security prisoner of war camp. It's an imposing fortress surrounded by high walls, topped with barbed wire, and heavily guarded by armed soldiers. It is a place designed to ensure no one gets out alive. But to understand the men trapped inside, we have to go back to December 3, 1971. Flight Lieutenant Dilip Parulkar was on a high-stakes mission to eliminate a Pakistani watchtower in Zafarwal. As he approached his target, the sky lit up with heavy anti-aircraft fire. His Sukhoi fighter took a direct hit. Parulkar ejected from the crippled jet, parachuting directly into hostile territory. He hit the ground injured, and before he could recover, a local mob descended on him. He was brutally beaten until Pakistani soldiers finally intervened and took him into custody. The Pakistani military had successfully grounded an Indian pilot and locked him away. The fight for the Zafarwal watchtower was over, but a new, quieter confrontation was just beginning, behind the bars of a cell. Parulkar woke up in a dark, damp, solitary cell. An interrogator stood over him, holding a pencil and paper, demanding a detailed map of India's highly sensitive Udhampur airbase. Parulkar pretended to break under the pressure. He took the pencil and carefully drew a completely accurate map, except it wasn't the Udhampur airbase. It was the civilian Mumbai airport. When the interrogator realized he had been played, the retaliation was swift. Parulkar was ordered to stand in the corner of his cell for the entire night. The guard outside was given a single instruction: if the prisoner tries to sit down, shoot him. While Parulkar endured these interrogations, the political landscape shifted. The 1971 war ended with the signing of an official surrender, resulting in 93,000 Pakistani troops falling into Indian custody. For the 12 Indian pilots held in Rawalpindi, this news sparked massive relief. The camp buzzed with the expectation of an imminent prisoner exchange. But as weeks dragged into months, Parulkar noticed a dangerous shift. His fellow pilots were becoming passive, entirely reliant on diplomats to secure their freedom. Parulkar saw the months of waiting as a form of mental surrender. He believed that if they were ever going to see India again, they couldn't wait for a treaty. They had to engineer their own escape. Parulkar brought 2 other pilots into his plan, M.S. Griwal and Harish Singhi. Their only navigational tool was a school atlas, surprisingly gifted to them by a sympathetic camp in charge named Usman Hamid. By studying its pages, they mapped out a desperate overland route toward Afghanistan. Their first tactical move was getting physically closer to the perimeter. Over several weeks, they used good behavior to convince the guards to transfer them into cell number 4, which sat right up against the camp's outer boundary. Now they faced the primary obstacle. Between them and the outside world was 18 inches of solid brick and mortar, and to get through it, they had exactly 2 tools: a stolen pair of scissors and a small screwdriver. They established a rigorous operational routine. They blew the fuse on their cell bulk to plunge the room into darkness, preventing the guards from seeing inside. Working only between midnight and 1 a.m., one man chipped away at the mortar while the others kept watch. Before dawn, they pushed the loose bricks back into the hole and hid the pulverized debris underneath their beds. Their final layer of defense was the wall's exterior. They meticulously chipped away the brick from the inside, but left the absolute thinnest outer layer of external plaster completely untouched. From the courtyard, the wall looked perfect. This brutal, exhausting manual labor did something crucial. By turning their cell into an active engineering site, they reclaimed control over their environment, proving that the prison's security was only as strong as its walls were thick. Inside the cell, they prepared for life on the run. They fashioned a makeshift compass using a sewing needle and a magnet salvaged from a cassette player. Using the tiny allowance given to POWs, they even paid the camp tailor to stitch them traditional Pathani suits right under the noses of the administration. Then came the night of August 13, 1972. A massive storm hit Rawalpindi. The deafening downpour and thick clouds provided the exact acoustic and visual cover they needed. Parulkar pushed his hand through the final layer of thin plaster. One by one, the three men squeezed through the narrow hole. Outside, a guard slept on a cot mere feet away. They tied their clothes together, threw the makeshift rope over the barbed wire, and vanished into the rain. They ran straight for the local bus stand. Dressed in their tailored Patani suits, they boarded a bus headed for Peshawar, presenting themselves as local Christian travelers to avoid any demands to recite Islamic prayers. Escaping the cell was a feat of engineering, but survival in Peshawar was a test of nerves. They were moving through the heart of an enemy country, relying on a psychological facade that had to remain perfect under the gaze of every passenger and soldier they passed. Their discipline carried them incredibly close to freedom. They made it all the way to Landi Kotal, only 5 kilometers away from the Torkham border and the safety of Afghanistan. Within sight of the border, their survival rested on the accuracy of their navigation. They were moving through a modern 1970s landscape, but the atlas they relied on was decades old. Seeking a final waypoint, they stopped a local at a tea stall and asked for directions to the Landi Khana railway station. They didn't know that the station on their map had been permanently closed in 1932. The request for a station that hadn't seen a train in 40 years instantly signaled that these travelers were not who they claimed to be. The man they approached, a government clerk, didn't let them walk away. He immediately gathered a crowd and had the 3 men detained. Trapped in the Tehsidar's office, Parulkar attempted one last bluff. He claimed they were Pakistani Air Force officers and asked the clerk to call Usman Hamid back at the Rawalpindi camp. When Hamid answered the phone, he realized that the 3 missing Indian pilots had just accidentally reported their own location. A 40-year-old cartography error ultimately halted their physical journey. Yet their ability to blindside the Pakistani military and cross nearly the entire country undetected remained a flawless psychological operation. Parulkar, Grewal, and Sinchi were transported back to Rawalpindi and thrown into 30 days of strict solitary confinement. The military punished their bodies for the escape, but the pilots remained defiant. The stalemate finally broke in December 1972. Pakistan's president, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, signed the decree releasing all remaining Indian prisoners of war. When the 3 pilots finally crossed the Wagah border back into India, they were met by thousands of cheering citizens. They returned exactly as they had left, as unbroken soldiers. Parulkar and his team proved that Rawalpindi's 18-inch walls were penetrable with nothing more than a screwdriver and a refusal to wait. While their journey ended at a diplomatic gate rather than a hole in a wall, they returned to India having already demonstrated that no prison can hold a soldier who refuses to be a prisoner.